The conference room was cold. Day-One sat at the long metal table and looked around at the faces staring back at him. Most of them were not human faces. Some had scales, some had fur, some had skin that looked like crystal. They were all scientists from different planets, all members of the Galactic Council, and right now they all looked at him like he was crazy. Veltek stood at the front of the room. He was tall, taller than any human. His body looked like it was made of glass and bones mixed together. His eyes were like insect eyes with hundreds of tiny lenses that caught the light. He had been talking for 30 minutes about why the rescue mission was impossible. "The mathematics are clear," Veltek said. His voice sounded like wind chimes. "The Andromeda Gateway cannot be crossed. The gravitational forces would tear any ship apart in less than 5 minutes. The energy needed to protect a ship would be more than a star produces. The materials required do not exist. This is not opinion. This is physics." He touched a button and the wall behind him lit up with numbers and graphs. Day-One did not understand all of them, but he understood the red lines that showed a ship being crushed. He understood the final calculation that showed 0% chance of success. 10,000 people are on that colony ship, someone said. It was Counselor Jamin, one of the few other humans in the room. His hair was gray and his face had many lines. "We have to try something." "There is nothing to try," Veltek said. "I am sorry, but the laws of physics do not care about our feelings. They do not change because we need them to change. The colony ship is lost." Silence filled the room. Day-One felt his heart beating fast. He thought about the people on that ship, families, children, all of them waiting for help that would never come. All of them slowly running out of air. He raised his hand. Everyone turned to look at him. Veltek's crystal face somehow managed to look annoyed. "Yes, Dr. Day-One?" Day-One stood up. His lab coat was wrinkled and had a coffee stain on it. He knew he did not look professional. He did not care. "What if we don't fight the gravitational forces? What if we use them instead?" "Use them how?" Veltek asked. Day-One walked to the front of the room. He picked up a marker and started drawing on the whiteboard. His hand moved fast, sketching circles and waves and arrows. "Quantum superposition? We could build a probability field generator, make the ship exist in multiple quantum states at the same time. It would be everywhere and nowhere. The gravitational forces would have nothing solid to grab onto." The room was quiet. Then someone laughed. Then another. Soon half the room was laughing. Day-One felt his face get hot, but he kept standing there. Veltek did not laugh. He walked closer to the board and looked at the drawings. Quantum superposition only works at the smallest scales. Atoms, particles. You cannot make an entire ship exist in multiple states. The wave function would collapse immediately. "It would collapse with our current technology," Day-One said. "But what if we cycled the field on and off millions of times per second? The ship would flicker between states so fast that it would effectively be in all states at once. That would require power fluctuations that would destroy any reactor," Veltek said. "Not with the right capacitors," Day-One said. "My colleague Hyun-Ji has been developing exotic matter capacitors that could handle the load." Veltek stared at him. The crystal plates on his face shifted slightly. "You are describing technology that does not exist. You are proposing to violate the fundamental laws of quantum mechanics. You are suggesting we bet 10,000 lives on an idea you sketched on a whiteboard 5 minutes ago." Day-One met his eyes. "Yes, that's not how physics works," Veltek said quietly. Day-One smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had nothing left to lose. Not yet. The room exploded with noise. Everyone was talking at once. Some were angry. Some were laughing again. Some looked interested. Veltek raised a hand and the room went quiet. "This is absurd," he said. "But I will say this much. Dr. Day-One is not stupid. Reckless, yes. Dangerous, perhaps. But not stupid." He turned to Counselor Jamin. "What do you propose?" Jamin stood up. He looked old and tired, but his voice was strong. "Give them 72 hours. Let the humans try to build a prototype. If they can prove the concept works, we support a rescue mission. If they cannot, we accept that the colony ship is lost." 72 hours to break the laws of physics," someone muttered. 72 hours to try," Jamin corrected. "That is all anyone can ask." The vote was close. But in the end, the humans got their 72 hours. As people filed out of the room, Veltek approached Day-One. Up close, he was even taller. His shadow covered Day-One completely. "I will be overseeing your project," Veltek said. to ensure you do not accidentally destroy the station. Fair enough, Daewon said. I need you to understand something, Veltek continued. When this fails, it will not just be your career that ends. It will be humanity's reputation. The Council will remember this. They will remember that humans promised the impossible and delivered nothing. Is that really what you want? Daewon picked up his tablet and his coffee cup. He looked at Veltek and grinned. Then we'd better not fail. He walked out of the conference room. His hands were shaking. His heart was pounding. What had he just done? He had promised to break the laws of physics in 3 days. He had bet his entire species' reputation on an idea that might not work. The hallway outside was busy. Aliens of every kind walked past, going about their business on Nexus Prime Station. None of them knew that in 2 weeks 10,000 people would die if Daewon could not do the impossible. He found Hyunji in her workshop. She was bent over a workbench welding something with a bright blue flame. She wore protective goggles and heavy gloves. When she saw him, she turned off the torch and pushed the goggles up onto her forehead. You have that look, she said. The look that means you did something stupid. I need your exotic matter capacitors, Daewon said. The ones you've been working on. The experimental ones. Hyunji put down her tools. Why? Because we're going to build a probability field generator and rescue 10,000 people from the Andromeda Gateway. She stared at him. That's impossible. I know. We have 72 hours? Yes. And if we fail, humanity becomes a joke to the entire galaxy. Also yes. Hyunji was quiet for a long moment. Then she started taking off her gloves. I'm going to need Youngsu for the quantum calculations, and Eunbi for the control systems. Daewon felt relief wash over him. You'll do it? I'll help you try, Hyunji said. But Daewon, you need to understand. This isn't like your other projects. This isn't the paper or an experiment. If we mess this up, people die. 10,000 people. I know, Daewon said quietly. His smile was gone now. I know exactly what's at stake. They looked at each other. They had worked together for 5 years. They had fought and argued and sometimes hated each other. But they always trusted each other when it mattered. Okay, Hyunji said. Let's go break some laws of physics. They walked together toward the human research wing. Behind them, Veltek watched from the shadows. His crystal face was unreadable. He had spent 300 years studying physics. He had dedicated his life to understanding the universe. And now he was about to watch a group of young humans try to prove that everything he knew was incomplete. He should have stopped them. He should have shut down this foolishness immediately. But something stopped him. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the memory of when he was young and believed anything was possible. Maybe it was just the look in Daewon's eyes, that absolute certainty that impossible was just a word. Veltek followed them. He told himself it was just to document their failure. He told himself he was being responsible. But deep down in a place he had forgotten existed, he wondered, what if they were right? What if not yet was the most powerful phrase in science? The human research wing smelled like burned electronics and coffee. Daewon loved that smell. It meant people were working, testing, breaking things, and fixing them. It meant progress. Youngsu arrived first. He was young, barely 25, with messy hair and glasses that were always sliding down his nose. He carried a tablet under each arm and had 3 pens stuck in his shirt pocket. A probability field generator? He said, his eyes lighting up. That's insane, I love it. When do we start? Eunbi came next. She was calm and quiet, the opposite of Youngsu's energy. She listened to Daewon explain the plan while she typed notes into her computer. When he finished, she looked up. The computational requirements will be massive, she said. We're talking about calculating quantum states for millions of particles, adjusting millions of times per second. I'll need to write an AI to handle it. No human could do those calculations fast enough. Can you do it in 72 hours? Daewon asked. Eunbi smiled slightly. I can try. Veltek stood in the corner watching everything. He had a tablet in his long fingers and he was taking notes. Every time something looked dangerous, he wrote it down. Every time someone broke a safety rule, he recorded it. His list was getting very long. They started building. Hyunji pulled out her exotic matter capacitors. They were small cylinders that glowed with a soft blue light. These can store more energy than anything else we have, she explained. But they're unstable. If one fails, it could explode. How big an explosion? Veltek asked. Big enough to vaporize this room, Hyunji said cheerfully. Velthek made another note. Young-soo worked on the quantum mathematics. He covered 3 whiteboards with equations. Sometimes he would stop, stare at what he had written, then erase everything and start over. Daewon would walk by and make suggestions. Sometimes Young-soo would nod. Sometimes he would argue. Always they moved forward. The problem was stability. Quantum superposition worked for tiny things like electrons, but a ship was huge, made of billions of atoms. The moment you tried to put something that big into multiple states, physics would fight back. The wave function would collapse. The ship would become solid again, unless you did not let it. What if we don't try to maintain a stable field? Daewon said suddenly. It was 2 a.m. They had been working for 18 hours straight. What if we cycle it on and off so fast that it never has time to fully collapse? Young-soo stopped writing. He turned around slowly. That could work. The field would flicker, but if we do it fast enough, millions of times per second, the ship would effectively be in superposition from an outside perspective. The power requirements would be enormous, Veltek said from his corner. The reactor would overload. Not if we buffer it, Hyunji said. She was drawing on her own board now. The capacitors absorb the power spikes. They charge and discharge in rhythm with the field. It's like a heartbeat. Velthek walked over to look at her drawings. His crystal face was impossible to read, but his fingers moved across his tablet faster now. He was calculating, checking their math. After a long silence, he spoke. This might actually work, he said quietly. I cannot believe I am saying this, but the mathematics are sound. Insane, but sound. They built the prototype over the next 2 days. It was small, about the size of a refrigerator. Inside was a network of quantum entanglement nodes, each one connected to others by threads of light. The exotic matter capacitors sat at the center, glowing softly. Hyunbi's computer controlled everything, running algorithms she had written in coffee-fueled marathon coding sessions. Ready for the first test? Daewon asked. Everyone looked nervous. Even Young-soo, who was usually fearless, took a step back from the prototype. I recommend evacuating this section of the station, Velthek said. We don't have time, Daewon said. We have 30 hours left. We need to test this now. He reached for the activation switch. Hyunji grabbed his hand. If this goes wrong, she said, we all die. I know, Daewon said. She let go of his hand. Okay then. Daewon flipped the switch. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the prototype started to hum. The sound grew louder, higher, until it was almost painful. The air around the machine began to shimmer. And then something impossible happened. The prototype flickered. One moment it was there, solid and real. The next moment it was translucent, like a ghost. Then solid again. Then ghost. Faster and faster until Daewon could not tell which state it was in. It seemed to exist in both states at once, a machine that was both real and unreal. Young-soo stared at his instruments. It's working. It's actually working. The quantum field is stable, or unstable, or both. I can't tell which, and that's the point. Then the lights flickered. The floor shook. Warning alarms started blaring throughout the station. Shut it down, Velthek shouted. You're creating gravitational distortions. The entire station is being affected. Daewon hit the emergency stop. The prototype powered down instantly. The humming stopped. The shimmering air settled. But the damage was done. Alarms were still going off. People were running in the hallways outside. Counselor Jamin burst into the room 5 minutes later. His face was red. What happened? Half the station felt that distortion. Did you just create a miniature black hole? No, Young-soo said, looking at his data. We created a localized space-time distortion, which is actually proof that it works. The prototype entered quantum superposition. The gravitational distortion was a side effect of the field interacting with normal space. Velthek was studying his own instruments. His crystal plates shifted on his face, something that happened when he was thinking hard. This is remarkable, he said slowly. You actually did it. For 3 seconds, that machine existed in multiple quantum states. That should be impossible for something that size. But it happened, Daewon said. It happened, Veltek agreed. He looked at Daewon with something that might have been respect. You are making the impossible possible. One explosion at a time. Jamin wanted to shut down the project. But the test had proven the concept worked. After a heated argument with Velthek and several other council members, he agreed to let them continue. But there would be no more tests on the station. They would have to build a full-scale version and test it somewhere else. Where? Hyunji asked. The Maw, Veltek said. It is a smaller gravitational anomaly 6 hours from here. Dangerous but survivable. If your generator works there, it might work in the Andromeda Gateway. They had 24 hours to build a full-scale probability field generator, install it on a ship, and fly to the Maw for testing. It was not enough time. It was nowhere near enough time. But they did not have a choice. The work became frantic. Hyunji fabricated dozens of exotic matter capacitors, pushing the manufacturing equipment beyond its limits. Young-soo refined his calculations while Eunbi upgraded her AI to handle a full-size ship. Daewon coordinated everything, running between stations, solving problems, pushing everyone forward. Veltek helped. He did not admit it, but he helped. He provided access to Galactic Council databases that humans had never seen. He suggested materials that might work better. He even helped Hyunji with some of the fabrication, his long, crystalline fingers surprisingly delicate with the small components. With 2 hours to spare, they finished. The full-scale generator was beautiful and terrifying. It filled an entire cargo bay, a massive ring of quantum nodes connected by threads of glowing energy. The exotic matter capacitors pulsed with blue light like a heartbeat. Yunbi's computer sat at the center, its screens full of scrolling code. They installed it on the Swift Pioneer, a small research vessel. Jiwoo would pilot. She was the best pilot on the station, a woman with steady hands and nerves of steel. Taehyun would go too, a medical officer, just in case something went wrong with their bodies during quantum superposition. I'm coming with you, Veltek announced. Everyone turned to stare at him. Why? Daewon asked. Someone needs to document this, Veltek said. His crystal face was unreadable. Either your triumph or your funeral, for the sake of science. But Daewon thought he saw something else in those insect eyes. Curiosity, wonder, maybe even excitement. The ancient alien engineer wanted to see if the impossible was really possible. They boarded the Swift Pioneer. As the ship prepared for departure, alarms rang through the station. Not warning alarms this time. Emergency alarms. A message came through on the main screen. It was from the colony ship, the Horizon's Light. The captain's face appeared tired and desperate. This is Captain Bora. Life support degrading faster than predicted. We now have less than 7 days. Repeat, less than 7 days. If anyone is coming, please hurry. The message ended. The screen went dark. The pressure just got worse, Hyunji said quietly. Daewon strapped into his seat. Then let's not waste any more time. Jiwoo, take us to the Maw. The Swift Pioneer launched into the darkness of space, carrying 5 people and 1 impossible machine toward a test that would determine if physics could be rewritten, or if 10,000 people would die. The Maw looked like a wound in space. Through the view screen of the Swift Pioneer, it appeared as a swirling vortex of darkness and light. Gravitational forces twisted everything around it, bending starlight into strange patterns. Just looking at it made Daewon's stomach feel strange. Readings show gravitational forces at 30 times normal, Jiwoo said from the pilot's seat. Her hands moved steadily across the controls. If we go in without the field, we'll be crushed in about 3 minutes. Comforting, Hyunji muttered. Veltek was running calculations on his tablet. I have updated my predictions. There's a 37% chance of catastrophic failure, a 22% chance of partial failure, and a 41% chance of success with various definitions of success. What were the odds before we started this project? Daewon asked. Veltek paused. 0%. Then we've improved the odds, Daewon said with a smile. That's progress. Your optimism is either inspiring or insane, Veltek said. I have not decided which. Daewon turned to Yunbi at the computer station. Is the AI ready? As ready as it can be, she said. But I won't know if it can handle the actual conditions until we're in there. Generator status? He asked Hyunji. All systems green. Capacitors charged. Ready to activate on your command. Daewon took a deep breath. This was it. Everything came down to this moment. If the probability field worked, they could save 10,000 people. If it failed, they would die here in the Maw, and those 10,000 people would die too. Activate the field, he said. Hyunji pressed the activation button. Immediately, the ship began to hum. It was a deep sound that Daewon felt in his bones. The lights dimmed as power flowed into the probability field generator. Then everything changed. The ship flickered. Day One could see his hand in front of his face, solid and real. Then it was translucent like glass, then solid again. The changes happened so fast his eyes could not follow them. He existed in multiple states at once, and his brain tried desperately to make sense of it. It was the strangest sensation he had ever felt. He was sitting in his chair, but he was also standing up. He was looking at the view screen, but he was also looking at Hyunji. Every possible position, every possible action, all happening at the same time. His mind wanted to scream, but even his scream existed in superposition, both happening and not happening. "Is everyone okay?" he managed to say. His voice sounded strange, echoing in ways that were not quite right. "This is deeply weird," Hyunji said, "but I'm alive. Vital signs are stable," Taehyun reported. "Strange brain activity, but nothing dangerous. I think our brains are trying to process multiple realities at once. Take us in." "Jiwoo," Daewon said. The pilot guided the ship toward the maw. On the view screen, space itself looked fractured, like they were seeing through a broken mirror. The ship left quantum echoes behind it, ghost images of where it had been and where it might be. Young-Soo's voice came through the communication system from Nexus Prime. "I'm reading your data. It's incredible. The field is holding. You're actually in quantum superposition. An entire ship." They went deeper into the maw. The gravitational forces should have been crushing them, but spread across multiple quantum states. The ship experienced only a fraction of the force in each state. It was working. "This is beautiful," Veltek whispered. He was staring at his instruments, his crystal face reflecting the strange light from the screens. "The mathematics are actually beautiful. You are not breaking physics. You are showing physics what it can do." Then the alarm started. "Field destabilizing," Hyunji shouted. "The gravitational fluctuations are creating feedback loops. The field is interfering with itself." "I'm trying to compensate," Yunbi said, her fingers flying across the keyboard. "The AI is adapting, but it's not fast enough." The flickering became more violent. The ship shuddered. Warning lights flashed across every console. Daewon felt like he was being torn apart. His consciousness stretched across too many realities. "One of the capacitors is overloading," Hyunji said. "If it fails, the whole field collapses." "Can you fix it?" Daewon asked. "I need to manually shut it down and restart it. But that takes 30 seconds. During those 30 seconds, we'll be vulnerable. Jiwoo will need to find a stable pocket in the maw." "The chances of finding a stable pocket are less than 8%, Veltek said, checking his calculations. Daewon thought fast. They could not find a stable pocket, but maybe they could make one.
"What if we pulse the remaining capacitors in a specific pattern?"
"We could create a temporary bubble of normal spacetime around the ship." "That's completely theoretical," Veltek said. "It might not work." "Everything we've done today was completely theoretical," Daewon pointed out. "We're still alive. Hyunji, can you coordinate with Yunbi to pulse the field?" "I can try," Hyunji said. "Then let's do it," Daewon said. "On my mark. 3, 2, 1, now!" Hyunji began working on the damaged capacitor. At the same time, Yunbi sent commands to the AI, making the remaining capacitors pulse in the pattern Daewon had suggested. The ship trembled. Space itself rippled around them like water. 30 seconds had never felt so long. The view screen showed chaos. Gravitational forces tore at the edges of their bubble. Reality itself seemed to scream. Daewon could see cracks forming in the space around them, wounds in the fabric of existence. 20 seconds. "Hull stress at maximum," Jiwoo reported. Her voice was calm, but her knuckles were white on the controls. 15 seconds. "Almost there," Hyunji said through gritted teeth. Sweat dripped down her face as she worked on the capacitor. 10 seconds. The ship groaned. Metal screamed. Alarms were so loud Daewon could barely think. 5 seconds. "Got it," Hyunji shouted. Capacitor back online. The probability field surged back to full power. The bubble of normal space collapsed, but now they did not need it. The ship returned to quantum superposition, flickering between states too fast for the maw's forces to grab hold of. Everything stabilized. The alarms stopped. The ship was still shaking, but they were alive. "That should not have worked," Veltek said. He was staring at his instruments like they had betrayed him. "Creating a bubble of normal spacetime inside a gravitational anomaly should not be possible. But the data says you did it." "It worked because it had to work," Daewon said. He felt exhausted, like he had just run a marathon. That's how we do things. They navigated through the rest of the maw successfully. Jiwoo flew with incredible skill, threading the ship through gravitational currents that would have destroyed them without the field. Hyunbi's AI adapted and learned, becoming better at managing the quantum states with each passing moment. Hyunji monitored every capacitor, ready to fix any problem before it became critical. They emerged from the maw into normal space. Jiwoo deactivated the probability field. Suddenly everything was solid again. Real. The strange sensation of existing in multiple states disappeared, and Daewon felt almost disappointed. It had been terrifying but also amazing. "We did it," Hyunji said. She sounded stunned. "We actually did it." "Status report," Daewon said. "All systems functional," Jiwoo reported. "Minor hull damage, nothing critical. We're alive and in one piece." Youngsu's voice came through the communications. "I watched all the data from here. You did it. The probability field works." "It actually works." But Velthek was frowning at his instruments. "There is something else. Something unexpected." "What?" Daewon asked, worried. "The chronometer," Velthek said slowly. "According to our ship's clock, we were in the maw for 37 minutes. But according to Nexus Prime's clock, we were gone for 43 minutes. There is a 6-minute discrepancy." Everyone was silent. "Time dilation," Yunbi said. "The probability field affected time itself. We experience time differently than the outside universe." "That's impossible," someone said. Daewon and Velthek looked at each other, and for the first time they smiled at exactly the same moment. "Not yet," they said together. As the Swift Pioneer began its journey back to Nexus Prime, Velthek sat in his chair and thought. 300 years of studying physics. 300 years of believing he understood the universe. And these humans had just shown him that he had barely scratched the surface. He looked at Daewon, at the young human who had dared to suggest the impossible. And Velthek made a decision. He would help them, not to document their failure, but to ensure their success. Because for the first time in centuries he felt something he thought he had lost. Wonder. The celebration did not last long. When they returned to Nexus Prime, Daewon found a message waiting for him. The Galactic Council wanted to see him immediately. He had a bad feeling about this. The council chamber was full. Not just the regular members, but dozens of scientists and politicians from across the galaxy. At the center stood an old Krylonian, even older than Velthek. His crystalline body had cracks from age and his eyes were dim. This was Senator Thalrin, one of the most powerful voices in the council. "Dr. Daewon," Thalrin said. His voice was like rocks grinding together. "We have reviewed your test data. The probability field generator works. Congratulations. However, we are shutting down your project." Daewon felt like he had been hit in the stomach.
What? Why?
"The time dilation effect," Thalrin said. "You manipulated time itself, even if only by a few minutes. Do you understand how dangerous that is? Time is not a toy. If we allow this technology to be used, we risk causality violations. We risk tearing apart the fabric of space-time. We risk destroying everything." "But we didn't destroy anything," Daewon protested. "We saved ourselves, and we can use this to save 10,000 people. Or you can kill them all when your machine tears a hole in reality," Thalrin said. "I am proposing that we end this project now. We use conventional methods to evacuate what colonists we can reach. The rest sadly are lost. It is a tragedy, but it is safer than gambling with forces we do not understand." Voices rose in agreement. Many council members nodded. They were scared. Daewon understood that. What he had done was scary. But giving up was scarier. Then Velthek stood up. "Senator Thalrin," he said, "I respect you. You have led our people with wisdom for many years. But in this matter you are wrong." The room went silent. A Krylonian disagreeing with Thalrin was almost unheard of. "I have spent 300 years studying physics," Velthek continued. "I thought I understood the universe. I thought the limits we knew were real and permanent. But these humans have shown me something. They have shown me that the limits we accept are often just the limits of our imagination." "You would risk everything for their wild theories?" Thalrin asked. "I would risk everything to save 10,000 lives," Velthek said. "Yes, the probability field is dangerous. Yes, we do not fully understand it. But we never fully understand any new technology at first. We learn by doing. We grow by taking risks. Our species became great not by playing it safe, but by daring to explore the unknown." Thalrin's crystal face darkened. We also became great by surviving. Caution kept us alive when other species died out. Caution is wise, Counselor Jamin said, standing up, but so is courage. The Galactic Council was founded on a principle that every species brings something unique to our civilization. Humanity's contribution is this: they dare to attempt the impossible when the alternative is unacceptable. They push boundaries when everyone else says to stop. Is that reckless? Sometimes, but it is also necessary. The debate went on for hours. Day one sat and listened as the fate of 10,000 people was argued over by politicians. He wanted to scream. He wanted to run back to his lab and just start working. But he had to wait. He had to trust the process. Finally, the vote came. It was close, very close, but in the end, the rescue mission was approved. However, there were conditions. Any sign of causality violations, any hint that time was being affected in dangerous ways, and the mission would be aborted immediately. Velthek would have authority to shut everything down if he deemed it necessary. Day one accepted the conditions. He had no choice. This was their only chance. Back in the workshop, the team gathered. They had 4 days before the colony ship's life support failed. 4 days to refine the probability field generator and prepare for the actual rescue. The feedback problem is still there, Yunbi said. In the maw, we barely handled it. The Andromeda Gateway will be 10 times worse. What if we redesign the node arrangement? Young Su suggested. He was drawing on a board again, his marker squeaking. Look at this pattern. It's fractal, self-similar at every scale. What if we arrange the quantum nodes in a fractal pattern? The feedback loops would reinforce each other instead of interfering. Velthek studied the drawing. His crystal plates shifted as he thought. Fractal quantum structures. That is highly theoretical. But the mathematics might work. In fact, a fractal design would naturally create the time dilation effect we observed. It is not a side effect. It is an integral part of how the field operates. So we can control the time dilation, Daewon said excitedly. We can use it to compress our travel time. Reach the gateway faster. If we can build a fractal node array, Hyunji said, that means redesigning the entire generator. In 4 days, everyone looked at each other. It was impossible. But by now they were getting used to impossible. Let's get started, Daewon said. This time they were not alone. Word had spread through Nexus Prime about what the humans were doing. Other species started showing up to help. A Talaxian metallurgist offered special alloys that could better handle quantum stress. A Vexian computer scientist helped Yunbi optimize her algorithms. Even some young Krylonians, inspired by Veltek's speech, volunteered to assist with calculations. What had started as a human project became something bigger. It became a symbol of what the Galactic Council could achieve when different species worked together, combining their unique strengths. Hyunji worked with the Talaxian metallurgist to fabricate new components. The exotic matter capacitors were redesigned to fit the fractal pattern. Young Su and the Krylonian volunteers spent days checking and rechecking the mathematics. Yunbi and the Vexian programmed a new AI that could handle the complex fractal calculations. Daewon moved between groups, coordinating, encouraging, solving problems. He had not slept in 2 days. He survived on coffee and determination. Velthek worked beside him, the ancient engineer and the young human forming an unlikely partnership. With 2 days remaining, they tested the new design in simulation. The results were promising. The fractal pattern did stabilize the field. The feedback loops reinforced each other, creating a stronger, more stable quantum field, and the time dilation effect was now predictable and controllable. If this works, Veltek said, studying the simulation data, we can reach the Andromeda Gateway in subjective time that is 1/3 of normal time. We would experience the journey as taking only a few hours, even though outside observers would see it take much longer. That gives the colony ship more time, Hyunji said. It also gives us more margin for error, Daewon added. If something goes wrong, we have time to fix it. They built the new generator. It was even more beautiful than the first one. The quantum nodes were arranged in a spiral fractal pattern that seemed to draw the eye inward. The exotic matter capacitors glowed in a rhythm that was almost like breathing. The whole thing looked more like art than science. The generator was installed on a larger ship, the Valiant Endeavor. This was a fast courier vessel with enough cargo space to carry medical supplies and temporary life support for the colonists. The crew would be Daewon, Hyunji, Velthek, and Jiwoo. Taehyun would lead a medical team to care for the rescued colonists. The night before the mission, Daewon could not sleep. He stood in the observation deck looking out at the stars. Tomorrow they would risk everything. Tomorrow they would find out if humans could really rewrite the rules of physics, or if their arrogance would kill them all. Hyunji found him there. She stood beside him in silence for a while. Finally she spoke. "Are you scared?" she asked. "Terrified," Daewon admitted. "What if I'm wrong? What if my confidence gets everyone killed?" Hyunji smiled. "Then you'll have failed gloriously trying to save lives. There are worse things than that." "Like not trying at all," Daewon said. "Exactly." They stood together watching the stars. Tomorrow would bring either triumph or disaster. But tonight they had done everything they could. They had built something impossible. They had united species that had never worked together before. They had shown the galaxy that limits were meant to be challenged. A message came through on Daewon's tablet. It was from the colony ship. Captain Bora's face appeared, exhausted but still strong. "We heard about your test in the maw," she said. "We heard it worked. I don't know how you're doing this. I don't know how you're making the impossible possible. But we believe in you. 10,000 people are counting on you. Please hurry," the message ended. Daewon looked at Hyunji. "Ready to make history?" he asked. "I was born ready," she said. The next morning, the valiant Endeavor prepared for launch. The crew boarded. Systems were checked. Final calculations were run. Nexus Prime Station watched as the ship that carried impossible technology prepared to attempt an impossible rescue. In the control room, Velthek sat at his station. He ran his fingers over the controls, feeling the smooth surfaces. 300 years of careful science had led him to this moment. And now he was about to throw caution to the wind and embrace the chaos of human innovation. He thought about Thalrin's words, about caution and survival. The old senator was not wrong, but he was not entirely right either. Sometimes survival meant taking risks. Sometimes the only way forward was to dare. "All systems ready," Jiwoo reported from the pilot seat. "Probability field generator standing by," Hyunji said. "AI ready for activation," Yunbi confirmed. Daewon took a deep breath. This was it. Everything they had worked for came down to this moment. "Launch the ship," he said. The valiant Endeavor launched from Nexus Prime, carrying hope and impossible technology toward the Andromeda Gateway. Behind them, thousands watched and waited. Ahead of them, 10,000 people ran out of time. The real test was about to begin. The Andromeda Gateway was hell-made visible. 3 black holes danced around each other in an eternal spiral, tearing space-time apart with their gravitational pull. Radiation glowed in impossible colors. Reality itself seemed to crack and bleed at the edges. Through the view screen of the valiant Endeavor, Daewon could see the colony ship. The horizon's light was trapped in a pocket of relatively calm space at the center of the chaos. But that pocket was shrinking. Soon the gravitational forces would crush the ship like a tin can. "Ready to activate the field," Hyunji said. Her voice was steady, but Daewon could see her hands shaking slightly. "Do it," Daewon said. The probability field generator activated. The familiar hum filled the ship. Reality began to flicker. Daewon felt himself split across multiple quantum states, existing in many places and times at once. It was still strange, but he was getting used to it now. "Field stable," Velthek reported. "Fractal pattern holding. The resonance is beautiful." Jiwoo guided the ship toward the gateway. They entered the outer edge, and immediately everything became chaos. Gravitational waves crashed over them like ocean storms. Space twisted and bent. The view screen showed madness, but the fractal field held. The quantum nodes reinforced each other, using the gateway's own chaos to become stronger. They were surfing on impossible forces, riding waves of broken physics. "This is working," Young-Soo said through the communications from Nexus Prime. His voice was full of wonder. "The field is stronger here than it was in the maw. The fractal design is perfect." They penetrated deeper. The forces grew stronger. The ship shook and groaned, but it held together. Yunbi's AI worked constantly, adjusting the field millions of times per second. The exotic matter capacitors pulsed like a heartbeat, charging and discharging in perfect rhythm. Then disaster struck. A massive gravitational wave, bigger than anything they had planned for, crashed through their position. The fractal field tried to compensate, but it was not enough. Part of the array failed. Quantum nodes went dark. The ship was suddenly exposed to the full force of the gateway. Alarms screamed. The hull began to buckle. Metal tore. People shouted warnings. Day One felt like he was being pulled apart. His body stretched across realities that were tearing away from each other. "We're losing it," Hyunji shouted. "The field is collapsing." They were still miles from the horizon's light. If the field collapsed now, they would die. And 10,000 colonists would die with them. Day One's mind raced. The fractal field was trying to maintain perfect symmetry. Each node balanced with every other node. But the gateway was pure chaos. To survive it, they needed to embrace chaos, not fight it. "Desynchronize the nodes," he said suddenly. "What?" Velthek turned to stare at him. "That will destroy the field completely." "Not if we do it deliberately," Day One said. He was working at his console now, fingers flying. "The field is trying to stay perfect. But perfection can't exist in chaos. We need to let different sections desynchronize slightly. Let the field become chaotic too. Then it can flow with the gateway instead of fighting it." "That violates every principle of quantum mechanics," Velthek said. But he was already running calculations. "The probability of this working is... I cannot calculate it. We are beyond mathematics now. We are in territory where science becomes art." He looked at Day One. In his crystalline eyes, Day One saw something new. Not doubt, not fear. Trust. "Do it," Velthek said. Day One and Yunbi worked together, reprogramming the AI to allow asymmetry. Hyunji manually adjusted the capacitors. Young-Soo fed them calculations from Nexus Prime, working faster than he had ever worked before. The whole team moved as one, united in purpose. They released the asymmetric field. For a terrifying moment, everything went wrong. The field flickered wildly. The ship screamed. Reality itself seemed to protest. Colors that should not exist flashed across the view screen. Day One tasted sounds and heard colors. The universe was breaking. Then, impossibly, it stabilized. The asymmetric field did not collapse. Instead, it danced. It flowed with the gateway's chaos like water flowing around rocks. The quantum nodes desynchronized and resynchronized in complex patterns that changed every microsecond. It was chaos, but it was controlled chaos. "Beautiful chaos, it's working," Velthek whispered. "By all the stars, it's actually working." The ship began moving forward again, faster now. They surfed the gravitational waves, riding them like a surfer on an ocean. Jiwoo flew with incredible skill, following Yunbi's guidance as the AI predicted the ever-changing patterns of chaos. They reached the horizon's light. The colony ship was battered and scarred, but it was intact. Captain Bora's voice crackled over the communications. "Valiant endeavor, this is Horizon's light, I don't believe it." "You're here. You're actually here." Her voice broke. "You came for us. We always come for people," Day One said. "That's what humans do. Now let's get you out of here." The hard part was not over. They had to extend the probability field to cover the horizon's light. Hyunji and the team had designed a quantum tether for exactly this purpose, but it had never been tested. They activated the tether. Threads of quantum entanglement reached out from the Valiant Endeavor to the colony ship, wrapping around it like protective arms. The field expanded, flickering, struggling with the increased mass. "Field holding," Hyunji reported. "Barely, the capacitors are at maximum load." "Then we don't waste time," Jiwoo said. "Everyone hold on. This is going to be rough." She began flying them out of the gateway. With two ships connected by quantum tether, every movement was dangerous. The combined mass strained the field to its breaking point. One wrong move and both ships would be destroyed. Jiwoo threaded them through gravitational eddies that would have torn apart anything else. She flew like she could see the future, anticipating dangers before they appeared. Maybe she could. Maybe the probability field let her perceive multiple possible futures at once. Day One did not know. He just trusted her. Yunbi's AI worked overtime, managing calculations that no human mind could handle. Velthek, Day One, and Hyunji worked together at the controls, 3 minds thinking as one, making split-second decisions that meant the difference between life and death. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time was strange inside the probability field. Day One could not tell how long they had been in the gateway. It felt like both seconds and years. Then suddenly they were out. The gateway fell away behind them. The probability field deactivated. Reality became solid and singular again. Both ships were damaged, scarred by forces that should have destroyed them. But they were intact. They were alive. All 10,000 colonists were safe. For a moment, nobody spoke. They just sat in stunned silence, unable to believe what they had done. Then Veltek started to laugh. It was a strange sound, like crystal chimes in the wind. Daewon had never heard a Krylonian laugh before. "You did it," Veltek said. "You actually did it. You made physics work differently." "We did it," Daewon corrected. "All of us together." Communications exploded with voices. Nexus Prime was celebrating. Youngsu was shouting with joy. Jamin was congratulating them. Even some of the council members who had opposed the mission were sending messages of respect. They returned to Nexus Prime as heroes. The station threw a celebration that lasted for days. The Galactic Council formally recognized humanity's contribution to science. The probability field generator was declared one of the greatest technological breakthroughs in Council history. But more importantly, something had changed. Veltek proposed a new initiative called the Integration Project. The idea was to combine human innovation with the accumulated wisdom of older species. The Council approved it unanimously. During the celebration, Captain Bora found Daewon. She had a young girl with her, maybe 8 years old, holding her mother's hand. "This is my daughter," Bora said. "She asked me something. She asked if you were magicians because you did something impossible." Daewon knelt down to look at the girl at eye level. "What did you tell her?" "I told her you're not magicians," Bora said. "You're scientists. You show everyone what's possible if we're brave enough to try." Daewon smiled at the girl. "Your mother is right. And you know what? You can do impossible things too. Everyone can. You just need to remember that not yet isn't the same as never." The girl thought about this. Then she smiled back. Later, Daewon found Veltek standing at an observation window, looking out at the Andromeda Gateway in the distance. The ancient engineer seemed different now. Lighter somehow, younger. "What's next?" Veltek asked. Daewon pulled out a sketch he had been working on. A new design, even more ambitious than the probability field generator. "I've been thinking about stable wormholes. Everyone says they're impossible." Veltek took the sketch and studied it. His compound eyes gleamed with interest. A smile formed on his crystal face. "That's not how physics works," he said, but this time there was no skepticism in his voice. Only anticipation, only excitement, only the wonder of someone who had rediscovered why he became a scientist in the first place. Daewon grinned. Not yet. They stood together looking at the stars. Out there, the universe was vast and full of mysteries. Out there, physics waited to be rewritten. Out there, impossible things waited to become possible. And humanity, with their alien friends beside them, was just getting started. Because the most powerful phrase in science was not, "That's impossible." It was not yet.